Hello and welcome back. I'm Andreas Judd, your tech-curious web designer, and Happy New Year to all of you. First, a shout out to my newest supporters on Patreon, a fist bump to Gail and a high five to Thomas and Brian. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to me. Cheers! And now let's get started. In this video, we will create two landing pages. A maintenance page in case we need to take down our live site to fix a major bug, as well as a password protected page for our staging site to make sure only those who know the password have access to the site. To create these landing pages, we will develop a Django middleware. Let me quickly explain what a middleware actually is. So a middleware sits between the browser and the view. So before the request even reaches our urls.py file and then the view function, it has to pass through a couple of middleware functions on the way to the backend. And on the way back, also the response from the backend has to pass through them again. Django's middleware functions are listed in the settings.py file and include, for example, a security middleware to keep the site protected from attackers of all sorts, a session middleware, authentication middleware, and many more. And we will also add now our landing pages middleware, which checks, for example, if our maintenance landing page is enabled or not. Let me allow to demonstrate now what we're going to build. So here I have my live site. If I want to display a maintenance landing page here now, I would go to my admin interface, go to maintenance, and enable it. Then save. Now if I go back and refresh the page, the maintenance page is now active and all requests are blocked from accessing the site. Now on my staging site, I have a password protected page here. So if I enter the correct access code, which is banana123, it creates here a session cookie and I'm able to access the staging site. Alright, now let's dive into the code and create those two landing pages. In my project, I create a new app for this and I call it a_landing pages. So here in the terminal, Python manage.py start app a_landing pages. Now I register this app in my settings.py file. So I go to my core folder, settings.py, then to my installed apps, landing pages, and save this file. Let's add now the HTML for this maintenance landing page. So I go to my landing pages folder, and in here I create a new folder called templates/a_landing pages. And in here I create now a base.html file. This serves as the base of all my landing pages. Now in here I add my HTML code. So it's just a very basic page, and my patrons can grab this code from patreon.com/AndreasJudd. I added here a special Google font called Antonio. The background color is our dark gray. I have here the logo on top. And here we have the content block for all the landing pages. Okay, we save this file. Now we create our first landing page. And I call it maintenance.html. Okay, I add the HTML. This code is again available to download on Patreon. So this page extends from the base.html file, and this page just contains a title and a subtitle. And I attached here an icon from the icons 8 library. Okay, save this file. Now that we added new HTML code and also Tailwind CSS classes, I will just start up Tailwind CSS to make sure we include all the Tailwind CSS classes in our style sheet. So I open a new terminal and I rename this terminal to Tailwind. like that. Then I navigate into the node folder, cd node, and then I start the Tailwind script. So npm run Tailwind. Okay, I let Tailwind run in the background, and I'm switching back now to my Python code. So let's create our view now. So I'm going to my views.py file. So this is just a very basic function which renders out our maintenance page. Okay, save this file. Now let's create the URLs in this up folder to keep them together. So in here I add a new file, urls.py. Okay. Then from django.urls I import the path, and I import all the functions from the views. Then we have here the URLs patterns variable with our path, which is accessing our maintenance page function. Alright, save this file. And now we have to include these URLs patterns in our main URLs file. So in the core folder, urls.py, we included already the URLs for the inbox, so just underneath here. I add the URLs for the landing pages, and then prefix them with the _/. But you can add here whatever path you prefer. Now I don't really like that those include URLs are just mixed here in the middle with all the others. Moving all of them to their corresponding app folders would make a lot of sense. However, for now I just move the include URLs and also the username path to the very bottom of this list. Like that. Okay, save this file. Let's start up the server. Python manage.py run server. And let's check out this landing page. So here we add /_/ and maintenance. So this is our maintenance landing page. So far so good. Now let's create a table in our database which stores the value if this page is enabled or not. So let's go to our models.py file. And let's create this model. So I'm calling this table landing page. It has two properties, the name of the landing page and a checkbox if it's enabled or not. We represent this object with a name in our admin interface, and we order all the landing pages by name. Okay, save this file. Let's add this table now to our admin interface. So we go to admin.py. And I'm creating here landing page admin to display the name and also if it's enabled straight in the list. And in this line, I register the landing page and the landing page admin. So let's import this landing page from our models file. So from .models import landing page. Okay, save this file. Now we have to do a migration to the server because we created a new table. So with Ctrl+C, I shut down the server. Then Python manage.py make migrations. Python manage.py migrate. And we turn on the server again with Python manage.py run server. Okay, now let's have a look at our admin interface. I'm logging in. And we have here our landing pages table. So let's create our first landing page object. I give it the name maintenance. And I click the checkbox is enabled. And save. Alright, now we have our on or off switch for our page. Now let's create the middleware, which checks if this page is enabled, and if it is, it redirects the visitors to the maintenance page. So back to the code. To create a middleware, we add a middleware.py file to our app. So in here, we add a new file, middleware.py. And the very basic structure of a middleware looks like this. It looks very similar to a decorator, which we have seen before, so it's a function in a function. Our middleware is called landingpage_middleware with the get_response parameter. Get_response is basically a function which lets our request object pass through the middleware chain. Then inside this wrapper we have the middleware function with the request object. In here we have a before section. This is code triggered before the request reaches the view. In this line we capture the response from the view. And then we also have the after section, which is triggered before the response reaches the client. I removed the after section now because we don't use it in this feature. Okay, let's save this file and let's add this middleware to our middleware list in the settings.py file. So here we have the middleware section and we just add our middleware at the bottom. So it's from our app, so a_landingpages.middleware.landingpage_middleware, the name of our function. Alright, save this file. And let's code our middleware now. So here I will add a function now which checks if the switch in the database is enabled. I call this function pageIsEnabled, which takes the maintenance object from the database as a parameter. I will create this function in a second. I also have to check if the user is not on the maintenance page already. Without this condition, we would create an infinite loop that would break the website. And then I add here the HTTP response redirect class, which takes in the URL of the maintenance path as a parameter. By the way, I could use here also the redirect function, just as a point of reference, which is basically a shortcut of this class. Okay, let's import now the missing elements. So on top here, from Django.http import HTTP response redirect, and from Django.urls import reverse. And now let's create this pageIsEnabled function. So it's taking here the page name as a parameter, and then we're trying to find this page. So we are accessing here the landing page table. Let's import the class. So from .models import a landing page. And we filter the objects by page name. This will give us a list spec with one expected item. And then we grab the first item of the result. Now the advantage of using the filter method over the get method is, if this item doesn't exist, the filter method won't raise a server error, unlike the get method. And then we say, if this page exists, return the value. So isEnabled is true or false. Else return false. So if this page doesn't exist in a database, we just have no redirect. Alright, save this file. And let's test it now. I go back to the home page here. But we got redirected straight to the maintenance page, because it is enabled in the database. Awesome, that worked. However, this maintenance page is now active for every subdomain on the site, even the admin URLs. Let's exclude them now, so we still have access to our admin interface. So here I add now another condition. So if the boss is my admin URL's path, not in request.path, I redirect to the maintenance page. Let's save this file and let's check it out. So now if I try to access the boss, okay, this still doesn't work. Let's get rid of the trailing slash, that should do the trick. And save. And test again. The boss. And now it works. So let's log in. I disable the maintenance page now. and save. Back to the site. And the site is again online. Perfect. Okay, let's switch back. And we are on maintenance again. Now, this maintenance page would also show up on the staging side. However, there I want to have always full access to test the site. So let's add that condition as well. So I'm adding another condition here. So we only get a redirect if the staging environment variable is set to true. So let's import the settings now. From django.conf import settings, save this file. Let's also add the staging environment variable to our env file. Do test this. There we go. And now we also have to restart the server. So Django is loading the staging variable. So we shut it down, Ctrl C, and spin it back up. Okay, let's test this. We should see the site even though maintenance is switched on. Okay, I click the logo. And indeed, we are back on the site, even though our maintenance page is enabled.
Nice.
Now let's move on to the next landing page, a password protected page for our staging site. I first add the HTML code, so I'm going to templates, add a new file, and I call it locked.html. The code for this page is again available for my Patreons on patreon.com/AndreasChat. This page basically just contains a form element with an input field for the access code. Okay, let's save this file. Now let's create the view. So back to views.py. Here I have my locked page function, which is pointing to the locked.html file. Alright, save this file. Now let's add the URL. And let's see how this page looks like in the browser. So I'm going to the locked page by writing /_/ and locked. And here we see this input field. Alright, let's code now the functionality. So first let's add an access code property to our model class, so we can store the password in the database. So we go to models.py, and here I'm adding the access code property. To note here is that I add null is true and blank is true, as this property is not required on my maintenance page. Alright, save this file. We also add the access code property to our admin.py file. Like that, save this file. And now let's make a migration to the database. So Python manage.py make migrations. Then Python manage.py migrate. And we spin up the server again with Python manage.py run server. Alright, now let's go to our database and create this new staging object with an access code. So let's add here a new landing page. I call this landing page staging. I enable it. And I add an access code. Let's say banana123. Okay, now save this page. We have now two landing pages, and the landing page for staging has our access code. Now let's create a Django form for the input field. Let's create a forms.py file. So forms.py. And in here create my form. So first I import forms from Django. Then I create my form class. I call it access form. Password is the name of the input field I get the data from. And we're using a char field. and it's a text input, and we have a placeholder with the text and the access code, and without a label. Alright, save this file. This is our form. Let's import this now into our view. So back to views.py. Let's import the form on top. So from forms, import access form, and then in my function here, I instantiate this form and create a form variable and pass it to the template. Alright, save this file. Now in our template, let's add this form now. So instead of hard coding it here, we just add 2 curly brackets and form, our form variable. Okay, save this file and let's check it out in the browser. So if I refresh the page, it should look the same, but now with our Django form. Okay, that worked. Now let's create the middleware. So if I go to the home page on my staging site, I want to see this password protected page. So back to our middleware.py file. And let's add now here also the logic for the staging site. So first we have if the staging page is enabled in the database. And the second condition is again if we are not on the logged page itself, to avoid an infinite loop. Next we want to exclude again all the admin URLs. If the boss is not in the request.path, then it will check if we are actually on the staging site. So if the settings to staging equals to true. And then we also check for a session cookie. So if a user successfully logs into the site, we will add a session cookie to the user's browser, which will be active for 2 weeks. So if this session cookie is not present, we will redirect the user to the logged page. So I'm calling the cookie staging_access, and if this is not, in the request.session. So if all of those conditions are true, we will be redirected to the logged page. Okay, save this file. So if we check our site now, we should be redirected to the logged page because we have not set a session cookie yet. So I refresh the page, and indeed, I got redirected to the password protected page. Alright, now let's add the functionality. So let's go back to our views. So here we say, if the request method is equal to post, we instantiate the form with the data we receive and create the form variable. Then we check if the form is valid. Then we extract the password from the form with form.cleaned_data.getPassword. This is the name of the input field we defined in our form class. Then let's get now the access code we stored in the database. So we're accessing here the landing page table, and we're trying to get the object with the name staging, and then we're accessing the access code property. Now if this object doesn't exist, this will give me a server error. So let's put it in a try and except block. So try accept, and we just write pass. Alright, let's import the landing page class. So from models, import landing page. So now that we have the password and the access code, we can compare if they're the same. So if the password the user provides is equal to the access code we stored in our database, then we add a staging access cookie to our session and we give it a value of true. And then we redirect the user to the home page. I'm using here the redirect function. Let's import it to the file. It's under Django shortcuts, redirect, okay. And that's it. Let's save this file. And let's test if the access code works. So I refresh the page. First I test with an incorrect password. Let's test with Apple. And it doesn't work. And now let's test with banana123. And I'm logged in and redirected to the home page. Awesome. Let's test it now without the staging environment variable. Save. Let's restart the server. And this gives me now the maintenance page again, because we are not on the staging side anymore. Let's disable this one in our local database. I unclick the checkbox here. And I also unclicked staging. I go back to my home page. And I see the page. Great, all seems to work. Okay, we are ready to deploy the code now. But first, let's update our production database with a new table. So I'm switching now to my remote database. So in settings, I change here Postgres locally to true. This will make now a connection to my remote database. And we can see we have 2 unapplied migrations. Control C. And let's do the migration. So Python manage to py migrate. Okay, now that the migration is done, I switch back to my local database. So I write here again false. Okay, save this file. And let's push this code now to GitHub. If you're using Tailwind, this will be the time to create a minified style sheet. I do that now. Go back to Tailwind, stop the script. Then I'm running npm run minify. This creates a minified style sheet. Then back to my Python code. And I write Python manage to py collect static. Alright. Now we are ready for deployment. I open my GitHub desktop application. I was working here in the feature branch of the hero button, but I want to push this code just straight to staging. So I switch branch. I switch to the staging branch. Bring all my changes with me. Now let's add a title. Landing pages. Commit to staging. And push origin. We're not creating a pull request here yet, because we want first to check it out on our staging side. I go to render. As we can see, it is deploying right now to the staging side. Nice, it's deployed now. Let's have a look. Now, the reason we can still access the site is because we have not created the landing pages objects in the Postgres database. Let's do that now. So let's access the database. Here we have the landing pages table. So I add the first page here, maintenance. I enable it. And it has no access code. Save, and the second one. Staging. I click is enabled and I add a access code. Alright, save this page. And now if I go to my staging site, I should see the password protected page. And there we go. That worked. And by entering our passcode, we log into the page. Awesome. Alright, this works now. Let's create the pull request to the main branch now. So I'm going from staging to the main. I add here a title, landing pages, create pull request, merge pull request, and confirm merge. Okay, I switch to render. We can again inspect the deploying process. It is deployed now. Let's check out the website. Okay, and there we go. Our maintenance site is working. Let's test to disable it now. I go back to my admin interface, to my maintenance object, unclick is enabled, and save. Back to the site. And there we go. We see our website again. Okay, this is all for this video. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we will look into how we can connect our site to a custom domain using a domain provider. And we will also take a closer look at the allowed host variable in our settings file, which plays a crucial part in our website security. Alright, I hope to see you there. Until then, stay curious, my friends. Bye bye for now.